right, so we're back with the last session of the day with the 2023 PIVOT Jordan Nielson Disruptive R&D competition. I guess not everybody knows who or why we have named the competition after Jordan Nielson. Jordan worked in a Southwestern Research Institute. He was very much appreciated in the geothermal community because he was a pioneer in the next generation of heat-to-power technologies with the use of supercritical CO2 to transform heat into electricity with higher efficiency than with the Rankine cycles that we're using now in a very matured way. Yeah. Unfortunately, he passed away last year. This year. And when we learned about his passing, we immediately decided to name this competition after him because he really represented the kind of role model, the kind of scientist that we would like to fund inside of InnerSpace because of his disruption, because also the way that he collaborated with others, and because of the way that he had a view of transforming the geothermal industry. Yeah. In order to remember and honor him, there is a small video that we wanted to play for you.
I'm Alicia Nielson, and I was married to Jordan for just shy of 10 years, up until he passed away. And his biggest passion in his life was his career, and especially in the geothermal field. That was something that he was just very passionate about. Jordan did take an approach of acknowledging when things were better than before, and he was really great at recognizing progress. A story that was shared during his funeral from his boss was that he often didn't recognize failure, and he understood failure to be really just one step closer to a solution. And I think that mindset is what allowed him to push those boundaries and think outside the box. When I think about his goal in the geothermal field, he talked about always wanting to leave the world a better place for his kids and his future generations.
Well, Jordan will certainly be missed in the geothermal community. Thanks a lot, Alicia, for the help to produce this video. And we hope that this message and this contest inspire others to follow the path that Jordan created. We definitely need more Jordan Nielsons in the geothermal community to make, as Alicia pointed out, a better world for our future generations. We have to move into the competition now. What you will see now is the 5 pitches that our finalists have prepared to show you what the proposals are. So please, now we're gonna see the video.
This is Pengju Xing from University of Utah. My research topic is geothermal resources evaluation with physics-informed machine learning model. According to DOE, geothermal electricity generation has the potential to increase to 60 gigawatts by 2050, which is 26-fold from today. However, geothermal resources development is a long-term process, which usually takes 30 years, and it needs substantial investment at early stage. That's why we need geothermal production prediction beforehand and during the development. The previous studies include either the physics-driven model or machine learning models. However, simulating geothermal production using physics-driven model is challenging, expensive, and time-consuming. The previous machine learning studies are restricted by specific regions because they rely on the historic data in a specific geothermal reservoir. So this proposed work aims to predict geothermal production using physics-informed machine learning model. It is not restricted to any specific region by incorporating fracture networks. It also avoids difficulties associated with physics-driven models by utilizing machine learning methods. Now let me explain how this physics-informed machine learning model works. So heat production is associated with fluid circulates through the fractures, no matter in enhanced geothermal system, which rely on man-made and natural fractures, as shown on the left, and also the hydrothermal system, which rely on natural system, which show on the right figure, which is the geysers. Fractures characteristics and spatial distribution are different at different regions. So this brings us to the physics-informed machine learning model. It has advantage of machine learning methods, and also it has considered fractures as inputs, as physics, and which will overcome the machine learning model restriction by regions. For this physics-informed machine learning model, we have time series data like production temperature, flow rate, and pressure. This figure on the left shows production temperature for 196 geothermal wells. And we also have spatial data, which is fracture information, where the physics information comes from. And this figure shows the fracture network at Forge. And for time series data, we use the machine learning method called LSTM. And for spatial data, we use convolutional neural network, CNN. And finally, we combine these two, we'll get heat production with time. So this figure in the left shows LSTM cell structure, and the figure on the right shows the conceptual CNN model with the fracture information as the input. So work plan is data collection and pre-processing, then the model development and model training, finally is the model deployment in real time. So this proposed work can accelerate the adoption of geothermal energy with widespread application of this geothermal resources predicts model, because it can do real-time prediction at various stages and is not restricted to any specific regions by incorporating fracture network information. Winning the competition is very important. It can initiate my research, which is super important. It's also beneficial to my other short topic, and it will also support me in my other career and educate students.
Hi, my name is Rita Esuru Okoroafor, and today I want to share with you a technology that has the potential to disrupt geothermal energy systems. This technology is inflow control devices, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to explain how it works and how my research group and I plan to use it to revolutionize enhanced geothermal systems. I want you to take a look at this figure here. This is something that tries to represent an enhanced geothermal system. In this case, we have an injection well, a producer well, and we are injecting cold working fluid, which comes in contact with hot rocks, and then extracts heat from these hot rocks and is then transferred to the producer. We produce hot fluid through the production well. Quite recently, Fervo Energy was able to demonstrate that we could use multi-stage, multi-cluster reservoir stimulation to be able to enhance the thermal performance of enhanced geothermal systems. That was groundbreaking, but we need to ask ourselves, can we do more? Can we do more to push the boundaries of what was given to us by the enhanced geothermal shot. And so this is where this disruptive technology comes into play. I want to first of all talk about the challenge. In this figure that you see here, I am showing just one out of many fractures through which the wells would have traversed. What happens is, as we are injecting the working fluid, the cold working fluid, we are actually cooling down the rock. And in some cases, we may end up cooling down the rock beyond which it becomes economical to produce. In other cases, there could be heterogeneities within the subsurface that prevents us from having uniform flow through the fractures. And then quite recently, Dr. McClure was even able to demonstrate that thermoelastic fracture opening and propagation occurs, and they actually have negative impact on the uniformity of flow through this kind of fractures. So in essence, we could have uncontrolled thermal breakthrough in our systems. And this is not something we want. We need to have some kind of control. So what do we propose? We are proposing a way in which we could make flow uniform. And in the oil and gas industry, this technology has been there for a while, where we use inflow control devices to kind of restrict flow by creating additional pressure drop where it's needed. And along horizontal wells, we create even flow. So for instance, if we have zones of high permeability combined with zones of low permeability, the high permeable zones, we want fluid to flow through them. But if we reduce the flow going through them, reduce it, and then allow more flow to go through the high and low permeable zones, then that way we make the flow uniform. We could employ such technologies in this kind of systems, trying to minimize or make uniform the flow through different fractures. So what does my team want to do? What we're trying to do is we want to look at what are potential triggers we could use to make the inflow control devices come into play, such as should we use certain temperatures? When the reservoir gets to a certain temperature, it should stop flow in that fracture and open another ICD. Other things is pressure or flow rate. So we want to investigate what are the best triggers to do that, or even the time. We also want to look at what are the optimal locations for these ICDs. Will they be in the injector well, in the producer well, or a combination? We also want to look at the economics of putting ICDs in such multi-stage, multi-cluster, hydraulically stimulated wells. And then, of course, with numerous simulations that will take place, we want to use machine learning and deep learning to be able to optimize the systems. But more importantly, in honor of Jordan Nelson, who has looked into CO2 for geothermal systems, we would want to evaluate if CO2 would be a potential working fluid. So I want to thank you for listening to this technology. We believe that it has the possibility of making controlled uniform flow through our systems and ensuring optimal thermal breakthrough. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Malcolm Ross, known to some people as the Geothermal Evangelist. I'm a university professional at the Bureau of Economic Geology at the University of Texas, known as the BEG. I represent a team of researchers at the BEG focused on geothermal energy. And I'd like to discuss today a project we call Spindle Hot. Why Spindle Hot, you say? Well, the first well in Texas that started the Texas oil boom was called Spindle Top. And it was located near the Spindle Top Salt Dome near Beaumont, Texas. I mentioned the salt dome because our proposal is to look at the geothermal potential of salt domes. Wouldn't it be sweet if a renaissance of renewable energy kicked off at the place where the Texas oil boom kicked off? Salt is everyone's favorite flavor enhancer, but are you aware that salt is really just another rock? This is a slab of rock salt from a mine in Louisiana. When it is crushed, it becomes what we shake on our food. Salt has some interesting characteristics beyond flavor enhancement. For example, did you know that over geologic timescales, salt is mobile and it behaves similar to toothpaste, being squeezed upwards into myriads of shapes, by heavy overlying sediments. This creates diapier stocks and pillows. This cross-section from the Texas-Oklahoma border to the coastline shows several diapiers, some of which are taller than Mount Everest. It is important to note that the diapiers are deeply rooted in mother salt, as deep as 5 or 10 kilometers in depth. That leads us to another interesting characteristic of salt. Its thermal conductivity is 3 to 5 times greater than other rock. And that raises the first key question we seek to answer. If these diapiers are deeply rooted in hot rock layers, does that high thermal conductivity make it so diapiers act as heat pipes, bringing the heat to the surface where we can easily get at it? We might be asking, if these natural heat pipes exist, why weren't they exploited in the past? This leads us to the next interesting property of salt. Salt diapiers have no porosity or permeability. That makes it an unattractive target for oil and gas or traditional geothermal. But wait, you're saying, why are salt domes associated with oil and gas? This is a cross-section at Spindletop. The oil is found in the cap rock above the salt and is in the rock layers distorted by the injection of the diapier, not in the salt itself. Our proposal is to drill into the main body of the salt diapier, accessing the heat below, piped from below. But wait, you're asking, you just said that the salt has no permeability, so it is not a target for geothermal. Exactly, traditional geothermal. But what if we were to make it a closed loop? That way, we would access the heat only by conduction and thus wouldn't need permeability. In other words, until the recent advent of closed-loop geothermal, this approach would not have been possible. When it comes to drilling, salt offers one more exciting property. It is far easier, cheaper, and faster to drill than regular rock. Heck, we can even drill it with water jets. You might ask, how big a niche is this going to be? This is a map of known salt deposits. While salt is not everywhere, it is more common than you think, and it is most common in deep sedimentary basins where geothermal gradients are low and other geothermal opportunities are rare. This idea won't be easy. Many of the salt properties that we take advantage of here also cut both ways. The biggest challenge is the ability of salt to flow. It flows at rates observable at human timeframes. That makes it possible that when we drill a hole, we may struggle to keep it open, and the flowing salt may bend or even shear our closed loops. Our second challenge is the thermal conductivity. It's great for extracting heat as we're going down and through the horizontal section, but that same heat will be sucked away by the high conductivity of the salt surrounding the return flow pipe, unless we insulate that pipe or we do the return journey through the less conductive surrounding rock. These two challenges form the core of our first step of our project, to drill a slim hole into a diapier, hopefully the Spindletop diapier, and measure the temperature and heat flow, and then introduce tools to measure the long-term changes in pressure on the pipe as we try to keep them open. There's one or more challenge, or maybe it's an advantage, for geothermal projects around salt diapiers. We are not the only ones thinking of using salt domes. Teams worldwide are thinking about using salt structures for storing hydrogen or carbon. But what if we did not compete with them, but rather we complement them by providing 100% clean energy and heat to do what they want to do? This is where the broader resources of the economic geology, especially the salt experts at the Applied Geothermal Geodynamics Laboratory, will become important. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, Pivot community. My name is Rodrigo Alarcón, and I am part of our research and technological development group focused on geothermal called IDEA Group, belonging to the Engineering Institute at UNAM in Mexico City. Currently, in the IDEA Group, we have developed prototypes for the direct use of geothermal energy, such as geothermal dehydrator, a heat pump for air conditioning applications, a modular equipment to desalinate seawater or brackish water, a coffee dryer, as well as a prototype of a brewery plant. All these projects are direct application of geothermal energy, so their geographical implementation is limited to the availability of this type of resource. This situation represents a disadvantage for the more than 2,000 sites with geothermal manifestation identified in the country due to their isolated condition from the electricity grid. Against this background, we have worked on the development of a modular ORC prototype that takes advantage of low and medium enthalpy geothermal energy with the intention of generating electricity on site and helping to promote commercial projects for direct use of geothermal energy. We have attempted the design and analysis stages of the turbomachinery required for the prototype, as well as the sizing of the pumping and heat exchange equipment, achieving a first prototype of 10 kilowatts capacity. The project has been developed to reach a level of technological maturity that allows operation tests to be carried out under relevant conditions. Validation tests were carried out last year to evaluate the performance of the prototype using geothermal brine from geothermal power plant in Mexico. Based on the development of this operational test, optimization and improvement points have been identified in the design, especially in the power system and electrical conditioning of the unit. For this reason, the investigation will be oriented to carry out the modification to the current prototype that allow addressing the points susceptible to improvement, such as seals, electrical generation equipment, and instrumentation in order to ensure a safe and reliable electrical supply. This project was sponsored by a federal fund in Mexico to achieve the current technological level. Winning this competition will allow us to address the weak point of the current prototype and complete it with a real-time data acquisition and monitoring system, as well as improve the electrical conditioning stage required for the self-supply schemes or supply to the electricity grid. This advantage in technology will allow us to reduce the cost of the system and thereby promote its use in conjunction with the direct use project that we have already worked on, either in a cascade or parallel configuration, which will eliminate the barrier of electricity supply. Besides, this project will promote the implementation of more projects for the direct use of geothermal energy, promoting its use in all regions of the country that have geothermal resources, bringing social benefits to communities such as job creation and the specialization of human resources and mitigation of environmental impact. Our project is almost complete and we just need your help to make it possible. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Klaerner, and I'm a research engineer at Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio, Texas. I've had the privilege of working with a lot of great minds, including that of the late Dr. Jordan Nielson, and it's my honor to continue on many of his research interests in geothermal energy. Here at Southwest Research Institute, as part of the machinery department, we have done a significant amount of work in the oil and gas industry, including various power cycles, as well as working a lot with supercritical carbon dioxide, or SCO2. And it just so happens the geothermal energy industry is a perfect place for all three of those research areas to come hand in hand and allow us to provide a very high level of expertise from past experiences. So at SWRI, we have done a lot of geothermal cycle modeling to start off with, and this includes binary plants and thermosiphons as well as others, and showing and modeling what SCO2 looks like in those applications. Using our past history with SCO2 as a working fluid, we know the high efficiency and power density attributes that it has to offer. And we wanted to look at what that looks like in possible geothermal setups and how we can benefit as a nation and a world from using these combinations hand in hand. In order to test a lot of these models that we have come up with over the past number of years, we actually created a natural convection loop or thermosiphon in one of our laboratories. What this is simply a closed loop system filled with supercritical carbon dioxide that runs through a hot bath and a cold bath with a supercritical temperature and pressure of 88 degrees Fahrenheit and 1088 psi. SCO2 is at a perfect spot provide great advantages compared to steam or other working fluids, especially in a geothermal application. So our test here simply proved out our models, and that the fact you can create a thermosiphon or a flow loop without the need of any compressor, simply driven off of the density changes of the fluid by the hot bath and the cold bath, and simulating what could be a potential turbine with an orifice plate in the system. What we at SWRI would like to use, though, with the potential research funding from this PIVOT competition, is to put several flow visualization components into our natural convection loop. What that would allow us to do, actually, though, is to test various mixtures of SCO2 in this loop to determine their feasibility and any potential risks or rewards using mixtures instead of pure CO2. These mixtures could include any other fluid at any given ratio, but would allow us to see how they react near the critical point where SCO2 is already not the stablest fluid in itself. Considering the very high density swings that occur of SCO2 and which is one of its major advantages, this is something that we want to look at and research further with potential mixtures. So using this funding, again, to create and put in these sight glasses into the test setup would allow us to determine mixture stability at the new critical point, as well as adjust mixture ratios to tune that critical point as desired. This tuning could then be used in the commercial geothermal realm, depending on season or well condition, to optimize your well performance as well as the performance of the entire system. Again, the big thing too, that because of the adjustment of the critical temperature, slightly raising it from the current 88 degrees Fahrenheit up some, allows for lower cooling capital costs depending on where the cycle is being used. So with that, we would be able to give out test data and as well as validate models of these mixtures to the geothermal industry for use worldwide. And with that, I thank you.
All right, so I'm back. I hope you enjoyed those videos, and remember that you will have very soon the opportunity to watch them again in our YouTube channel. Yeah. So I wanted to explain that this year we have gathered a technical committee to rank the finalists and decide who goes home with the first prize, $75,000, and the runner-up also gets a prize, is $50,000. But we also wanted to hear you, to hear our audience, and give you the opportunity to tell us which researcher, which idea has inspired you the most, which one you consider that will create the largest impact. So now we're going to launch what we call the People's Choice Awards. Yeah, probably it's already appearing. You will have a pop-up window that will give you a link to vote. And we're going to give you a couple of minutes for you to consider, evaluate the different ideas. And while you're doing that, I'm going to explain, as you can imagine, I mean, if you've seen the videos, you see the quality. It was very difficult to select these 5 finalists over the different proposals that we received. You can imagine that it's also hard to define the winner. Yes? And for this task, what we did was to gather 6 people, 2 internal in InnerSpace, 4 external, with very varied backgrounds so that we could cover the whole space. Yeah? And we ranked there over 4 criteria, being the first one, the impact. We want something that is that can give us a breakthrough that will change geothermal. We also wanted innovation and how original the proposal was. Yeah, what's differential versus what you can see in any kind of conference. Yeah, we also wanted to consider the probability of success. Yeah, it's not enough to have a great idea. It's something that has to have, some depth and some opportunity to actually succeed. And last but not least, the clarity of the presentation, because it's not enough to be the greatest scientist. You also have to be able to explain your ideas and to actually sell your work. Yeah. So these were the 4 parameters that our 6 judges have used to come up with the ranking that we will explain in a second. And as I said, we also have these People's Choice Awards that we're gonna be able to tell you the results as soon as the poll closes. Remember that out of these 5 finalists, we will have 2 winners, yes? And considering the breadth of the different concepts that were presented, you can imagine that the judges did not really have an easy job selecting. And yeah. We have 30 seconds left for the voting. So I wish, yes, I'm gonna get the results very shortly. I can't hold my breath anymore. All right. So we get already our words. All right. So I can see the results. And it's not really a surprise, but the People's Choice Award has gone to the development of an ORC system for electric microgenerator operated with low enthalpy geothermal resources with 37% of the votes. And now, after this a big clap for Rodrigo, yes? And now we're gonna be presenting the winners of the competition, yeah? I'm gonna start with the second award that will actually go to the same team as has won the People's Choice. That would be Rodrigo Alarcón from UNAM. We'll talk to you soon. You get $50,000 to continue with your work. And we leave the best for the last. Our first position for the 2023 Jordan Nielson Disruptive R&D competition goes to Southwestern Research Institute. John Klaerner, congratulations, you have won the first prize. I can actually see the seismic waves coming from Mexico and San Antonio. Please don't jump that high. Congratulations. As I said, we will talk to you shortly. And to the other 3 finalists, I wanted to thank you for your participation. It was very much a very close call. And as Zeiner said before, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Yes? All right, so I have the honor to close the second week of Pivot Conference. And I mean, it's been a fantastic day. We visited China. We had some updates from their industry for their research activities and how they're merging AI methods to squeeze the best out of data. We also visited India and Ladakh and the great potential that they hold for geothermal. Remember to do it with Ladakh people. We also explored our phase 1 and our alliance with Google to produce the greatest of all times subsurface data sets. We also explored heat business models. And also we caught up with our friends in Sage and their breakthrough results with geothermal and energy storage. But remember, this is just the end of week 2. We have week 3, week 4, and week 5 coming up. Pay attention to our announcements because the agenda has still not been released. But we're building our way up to our grand finale in Houston. That's going to be in 3 weeks. Yeah, we still have competitions like 5 on Fire, large language models competition, the startup competition, and many, many more panels that will give us the best and the latest on geothermal. And if this does not really make the September, the geothermal month, I don't know what will, folks. You've been a very nice audience. Thank you very much. and have a nice evening. Good night.